It's been quite a test series, this India versus England in India. A couple of test matches in Chennai, now one in Ahmedabad, the second round the corner. There's been so much talk about what has happened. But here, we are looking ahead. And as usual, I've got Michael Vaughan with me, never minces his words, isn't worried about what people say about him. So welcome, Michael. You've had a few people saying a few things at you, but it's never bothered you, has it?
Well, it can do if I feel that it's kind of hitting a nerve. But over the last week, I haven't had that moment where any kind of abuse has hit a nerve. I'll stick by what I said. I will stick by how I believe Test match cricket should be, and I'll stick by the fact that I thought that third Test match wicket was a poor one for Test match cricket. But India, as I said in the second Test, as I said in the third Test, have outskilled England hugely and are a better team in these conditions. It's now, can England learn from those two Test matches, come back a team for the fourth Test? No, it'd be same kind of pitch, same kind of conditions, different colour ball. Can they have improved on those last two performances, which hasn't been to the standard of what they would have expected, and many of the England fans around the world?
So there's two things to look forward to. Let's look at the Indian point of view and the English point of view. India have a toe into the final of that World Test Championship. A draw is good enough. I don't think you're going to get a draw because Ajinkya Rahane said the track will be similar, so we can rule that out. Can India be complacent, number one? And do England almost worry too much about the surface and look less within themselves than down at the surface?
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that India will be complacent when you've got a Test match championship final to play for. I can't see them being complacent. England are playing for Australia, so that's quite interesting that England they get Australia into the final. I didn't think I'd ever be saying that. England will have to play incredibly well. Two or three of the individuals will have to do what Joe Root did in that first Test match. I'm looking at India, and you're looking at the likes of Shubman Gill. He could do with some runs. Ajinkya Rahane. They all kind of look at Rohit Sharma. He stood out a country mile with the way that he's played. So I think most of the players on both sides will be looking at the way that Rohit's played, and they'll be trying to copy the way that he's gone about his business, because he's been outstanding.
A quick change between the two sides, or between the two surfaces, two Test matches rather. That was played with a pink ball. There was so much talk about what the pink ball will do. It's interesting what the spinner said, Michael. Ashwin said that because of the lacquer, the curved ends of the ball were heavier than they are normal for the red ball, and so he actually had to practice differently because the revolutions are coming out different. But what both spinners said was that and indeed in the England camp, was that the ball was skidding through because of the extra lacquer, and often it's that small difference in speed that can play with the batsman's defense. So from that point of view, will a red ball, in your opinion, almost be easier to face, and will the experience of playing on that track actually serve the batsman better?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, that I think it should be a little bit easier. And the one thing that I'm looking for from an England perspective is, have they learned? Have they learned from the last 2 weeks? Have they got better? The batters throughout this tour, they played 2 in Sri Lanka, now 3 in India. They don't seem to be playing any better against the spinning deliveries, and that's a concern. And that must be mentality. It must be the heavy burden of playing Test match cricket, where you failed a couple of times against a couple of the same bowlers, and you go out the week after, it's all very similar, same ground, same guard, same kind of field that Virat has set against you, the same bowler coming at you. And that's why Test match cricket is such a mental challenge, because you're facing the same bowlers and the same scenarios week after week. If you're playing domestic cricket back home or in India, you get a different set of bowlers, a different pitch, a different kind of scenario to play against. In Test match cricket, I look at the likes of Crawley, Sibley and Ollie Pope in particular, 3 young England batsmen. They've got a lot to play for this week. I'm really looking at those 3 young players in the top 6 in particular to see, have they learned from the last 2 Test matches, and can they take something out of this week? It's going to be a big week for those 3.
Let's look at possible changes then. You made a very valid point. I think Ajinkya Rahane could do with a few more runs. He's a wonderful team player. He'll adapt his game, but he needs some more runs. Maybe Shubman Gill needs some more runs. And there's 2 places to my mind that are up for grabs. One, of course, vacated by Bumrah, so it'll be either Umesh Yadav or Mohammad Siraj. Siraj did really well in Australia, has played with great heart in the opportunities that he's got. And then they've got to figure out with Washington Sundar. Do they think it's a surface where 4 bowlers are enough and a few overs from Washington to bolster the batting down? Or will they say, let's just play one more batsman? Maybe they'll still play Washington, so I'm expecting one change. But what about England? They've got to play. They've got to play Dom Best. They can't go in with three seamers again, can they?
If Dom Best doesn't play this week, Harsha,
he should retire. He should retire.
You're correct. He should be finished. I mean, he has to play this week. He should have played the last 2 weeks, in my opinion. If I was England, I would play another batter. I'd just say, wait a minute, we're not going to bowl that many overs of seam. I'd play one out-and-out seamer. You decide upon who that seamer is. Jimmy Anderson, probably, with Ben Stokes. Ben Stokes, he's only going to bowl 10 overs, probably in the first innings only, so he could take the new ball with Jimmy Anderson. Play Dan Lawrence, pack your batting, play Don Best and Jack Leach, Joe Root. So you got 3 spin options, 2 seam options. If the pitch plays like it did in that third test match, you don't need 3 seamers. You really don't. So basically you're playing a seamer just because you feel that's the formation that you should go with. I would just pack the batting, get Dan Lawrence in. That would put Don Best at 9, Jack Leach at number 10, Jimmy Anderson, Ollie Stone, Stewart. I don't care who bats number 11 or plays. I don't think it's that big an issue on this kind of surface. But I just pack my batting. And to win on these kind of decks, you have to find a way of getting 500 runs across 2 innings. I think if you can get 500 runs across 2 innings, with what we saw in that third test match, with Joe Root getting 5 for 8, Jack Leach bowling consistently, he's getting wickets. I think it'll be enough, but it's England's problem of how did they get to 500 runs? I'd pack the batting. I wouldn't even think about the traditions of the game. Last week, they went traditionally 4-1. It was a ridiculous selection. They got it completely wrong. This week, think out of the box, pack the batting, 3 spinners, 2 seamers, and one of those seamers is Ben Stokes.
Well, in any case, the 2 best new ball bowlers on either side have been, 3 have been Ashwin, Akshar Patel and Jack Leach. So you don't need these traditional spinners anyway. And of course, the guy who could have made a difference, both with his batting down the order, is not here. So no, we won't even talk about Moeen Ali. We've had enough conversations about England's players coming and going, and Chris Woakes is now happy to go back, and Moeen Ali who's there, and who's coming back in. So we won't even get there anymore. 3-1, you think, Michael? 2-2? I'm not even thinking of a draw.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ironic thing about Moeen Ali, I think he is back there. I think he's arrived back with the one-day players. He's in quarantine. I think he came on the flight, what I'm led to believe, on the 26th. So all the T20 one-day players are there, quarantining, ready for that one day.
Yeah, he could have had his cup of tea, yeah? I mean, he went back long enough for a cup of tea, didn't he?
I think he came back for a brew and then got back on the plane. Prediction, India will win. I hope I'm wrong, but with the way that they've played in the last 2 weeks, you've got to remember they've beaten England by over 300. They've beaten England by 10 wickets. It'll be and England have batted first and also batted second on those 2 test matches and been hammered on both. If the ball's spinning from ball 1, I can't see anything but an Indian victory. What I'm hoping for from an England perspective is more competition and a little bit tighter and a little bit closer. And I'm wanting to look at those younger batters in particular. Have they learned and have they been able to take away the mental baggage? And that's what it's about at test match level. There's a spotlight on you. You've got to accept that. It's not going to go away. You're going to have pundits question you. Again, you're going to have to accept that. But can you go out there and face the ball and maneuver yourself into a test match innings by playing the right way? Not being frantic, not being too risky. Of course, you have to take risks at the right time, but you've also got to work a method of staying out there for a long period of time. So I'm looking forward to see how the younger England players kind of cope with that pressure. But it's been a little bit of a history of the big tours. India in 2016, England started well but lost 4-0. It just got progressively worse. The Ashes last time round, England lost 4-0, and by the end in Sydney, it looked a bit of a train wreck, really. And this has got a similar feel that if England aren't careful, they may get blown away this week, and it'll be a real poor ending to what was a few weeks ago looking like a very promising tour for them.
For a start, I think all the players will be looking at the toss and they'll be telling Virat, call right, let's bat first, let's get first use of it. Pujara is a great pair of spin, needs some runs. Virat Kohli could do with another big score behind. Rohit is in great form. So India want to win the toss. Well, both teams want to win the toss. We'll wait and see. Michael and me, of course, will be back every evening. We don't know for how many evenings, but we'll be back every evening that there is play on Cricbuzz Chatter. Thank you for joining us.